Thank you very much. Well, it is a great pleasure to be here, and especially in Barcelona, because in Barcelona was 11 years ago when we had our first TBB. At that time, we were close to 20 companies, 20 innovators, and something like 150 people, all of us in a cozy hotel in the center of Barcelona. After all these years, this is not possible anymore. So this is great to be here again. The topic of this year, TBB, is economic growth, geopolitical resilience, and clean energy transition. OK, so let's go a bit with all these topics, starting by the clean energy transition. As Diego has said, there is something very relevant that has happened in Europe in the late years, because our targets are not simply a pledge. They are embedded in our law. This has given stability and a solid business case for investors. And besides that, the Green Deal has brought a dynamism, especially on the demand side. And this means that altogether, we have created the market conditions for these innovators, for these clean tech technologies to happen in Europe. At the same time, innovation has been very present this time. Just for you to know, since 2010, the number of emerging technologies companies to tackle climate change has quadrupled in the world. And 40% of those are in Europe. Last year, in the year 2023, there was a key milestone, because 43% of all the global VC investment in climate tech was happening also in Europe. We are leaders. Sometimes it is difficult to say this in Europe. We are leaders also in these technologies. We are leaders in recycling. We are leaders in renewables, in wind, offshore, marine energy, hydrogen. So we have achieved a technology position very strong. All this has created a breeding ground. And we have to say that, yes, we are on track in terms of the clean energy transition. Last year, the share of electricity generation from fossil fuels was exactly the same as the one by renewables. And besides that, the deployment of clean technologies has been increasing all the time. So at the end, as a result, we can say that the greenhouse gas emissions are going down. So yes, we are on track. The thing is that Europe is only 10% of these greenhouse emissions. And unfortunately, last year, these emissions grow 2.1%. So still, the world has a lot to do. But for instance, there are some countries that are free riders, so taking advantage of the others, and some countries that they are also doing their homework, not only Europe. And one example is China. China, in this last year, accounted for 60% of the new capacity for renewables. China. And then interesting is that all these technologies that we have deployed, suddenly, the only aspect that we haven't realized is that all these solar panels, for instance, most of them are also coming from China. And that is where we start the second part, which is the geopolitical resilience. The US took a decision, and it was applying the protectionism measures, the protective policies, with the IRA. And then what did happen? With the markets, US markets closed, then the European market for China was the solution, was the carrot. Here there was the demand. Besides the fact that in their own economies, in their own economy in China is completely flat, it's stagnant. So we were the solution for their economic challenges. And then EVs, PVs, batteries, from China to Europe. Just for you to know, 55% of all the exports of EVs in China, the market is Europe. And meanwhile, all this was happening, what about the European industry? Yes, we were proud because we were the cleanest. But at the same time, we were having the higher cost in energy, the higher cost because we have complex processes like permitting, higher costs in terms of compliance, but we were the cleanest. We were proud to say, no, in our companies, they don't use state aid, okay? It's a free market. But in Europe, we have welcomed subsidized competition from the third countries. Interesting, isn't it? We welcome this competition. Competition is a supranational value of Europe, but we need a fair competition play and reciprocity. And that is why Diego was mentioning that the European Commission also reacted at that moment, and they launched the Green Deal Industrial Plan with the Net Zero Industrial Plan, something, a law that it is trying to secure our domestic manufacturing capacity. The target is 40%. And not only that, we have worked also in order to create the fair conditions for such a competition, the Made in Europe. We welcome others, but they need to compete with the same rules. And this is not only cost, but also aspects like sustainability and circularity. The last measure, one of the last measures, happened this 4th of October, when the European Commission took measures for the countervailing duties in EVs coming from China. It has been very interesting because the reaction of China has been much more aggressive than when US and Canada and other countries imposed the 100% tariff. Interesting. And why? Probably because in Europe we don't have one voice. And the second thing is because China has a higher influence on us. We depend much more on imports. So this is changing the scenario, okay? We need to de-risk from China. It's urgent. And we know that that is going to be a cost. There is going to be a cost because there is a new era in terms of relationship. But inaction will cost us much more. So we have to look for ecosystems and cooperation, but building on our own capacities. We have also US, and with US we need really a transatlantic cooperation. We share many things with them, even the values. But we have to think that, and this is something very European, we are always waiting what happens on the other side. Let's don't wait. Okay, they have their elections, fantastic. Let's decide our own destiny. Let's focus also on dual-use technologies. This is super interesting. Also defense and climate tech. And this is the first time in history. Usually the innovation was first in the defense, public, and then applied into the commercial side. Now it's vice versa. We have seen it in the world. We need resilient supply chains, and this is working for the first value approach. It's not only cost, delivery, or quality, but now we have to consider geopolitical risk, innovation, and sustainability. And let's think about new partnerships. Partnerships that have to do with clean trade and investment partnerships. So it is not only about securing our raw materials. Why don't we make our Europe Green Deal global? Why don't we bring also a reindustrialization, a clean industrialization to these countries? And now, the last topic, which is the economic growth. And here it is the surprise. Okay, it's a shitty environment, the others are doing a lot of things, but what if I tell you that even without subsidies, the cost of many products that they come from China will be still lower? Because they have a scale, and also because they have technology leadership. They are really applying the industry 5.0. They are really integrating manufacturing with digitalization and artificial intelligence. And this means money. Just an example. On the batteries, the level of scrap here, it will be around 40%. In China, it's less than 1%. This is money. Okay? We have mentioned the Draghi report. And in that report, clearly it says that in the last 50 years, there has not been any company in Europe hitting the 100 billion mark. This is structural. So we need to push this economy of scales, and a true single market will facilitate that, including the financial aspect, including the capitals. We need to make also innovation commercially viable, because we have been working in innovation. We have a lot of innovators, but we need to go the next stage. So bridging much more the startups world and the industry. The industry needs to modernize. We need to address the problem that we have in Europe in terms of growth financing. A type of financing where public and private needs to go together. Probably with a less risk-averse attitude, and also the public offering warranties, more warranties. We don't have manufacturing and industrialization skills. We lost them. There was a time that we have these skills here in Europe. We need to bring them. We have to recover them. And my last point is that, we have been creating a lot of regulation to foster the green economy. But have we incentivized the clean tech champions? There is something that we call the first mover advantage. So apparently here in Europe, we have the first mover disadvantage in clean tech. This is really interesting because in other countries, Washington, Beijing, blah, 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 they have created those incentives. They are bringing subsidies to these pioneers, the one that they have a step back, up in the front, and they say, hey, we want to try it. We are going to try it. In Europe, on the contrary, we sit down and say, OK, try and wait. And the investors, meanwhile, they are praying. Okay? It's very common to listen today all the many investors saying, no, we are committed. But we would like to wait a bit, you know? There is still some risk. This is a structural problem. It's not about one company or one individual. It is really paradoxical that we are happy with goods subsidized by other countries, and where we are not even able, or we deny our support and the state aid to our own pioneers. What is the signal that we are sending to the world? What is the incentive for other pioneers to follow this? Very simple, zero. We need carrots. We need incentives. Perhaps ETS credits, or just foster the procurement in the public administration, gear it towards clean products, like it has happened in the past in US, for instance, with the chips. We need to support these pioneers, because otherwise, all the efforts that we have been doing in terms of innovation, this will be a lesson that people will not forget. And that is InnoEnergy. So what we are going to do, because we are people that we like storytelling, but we love story doing, okay? And we were here, we were founded in the year 2010 with the mission to foster that innovation in sustainable energy. Just for you to know, in the year 2010, the concept of sustainable energy was not popular, the concept of energy transition was not popular. We took the challenge, and we are delivering. We are delivering these innovators. We are also delivering, and we will continue with the strategic value chains in order to create those conditions. But one of the critical, and we are very proud, is that our companies, our portfolio, have the potential to decrease the CO2 emissions in Europe by 30%. But only if they are able to scale up, only if they are able to grow. And that is, oops, now too fast. Previous one, please. Okay. That is our commitment to all of those. Here there are these pioneers of the climate tech that they step forward, and they decided to contribute to this challenge. And this is something that InnoEnergy, we are with them, and we are going to go on supporting them. We are going to do our best. One of the things that we are going to do, as Diego has said, is to address one of the challenges that we have, which is the financial. And we are going to create the mechanisms in order to support this growth financing. So we will launch new instruments. Skills. 80% of the manufacturing projects are delayed because of the lack of skills. So we will go on pushing our Skills Institute to provide these skills to the workforce. And also to complement the teams. The profile of the entrepreneurs now, we need to evolve and include these industrial competencies inside. And finally, we are going to support also the growth. How? Creating new opportunities, and that is why we are working a lot with the transatlantic bridge, creating these markets and this bridge between Europe and US. We have also operations, and that is why we have also operations now in the United States. And also fostering probably synergies among these newcomers and also the industry. But we cannot do it alone. We need the whole ecosystem. And you remember that I have been using this slide for years. And this is especially important because this is the country of the towers, the human towers, the castellers. And we have explained for many years that these entrepreneurs that are at the top are there because today there is a whole ecosystem which are supporting them. So collaboration comes from come, together, lavorare, working. And they explained me last week that it has a connotation of also suffering together. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need your support to go to the next step, because we can do it. And we also have the same common purpose, because as Diego has said, it's not only about the environment. It is also about our welfare and our freedom. So thank you very much, and enjoy TVB 2024.